I want to talk about the ship that's heading towards Gaza in the hopes of delivering humanitarian aid to the roughly 2 million Palestinians who are currently starving because of Israel's blockade and genocide. I'm of course talking about the Handala. This ship is actually a ship that's, surprise, surprise, mainly filled with people from Western countries. I think this is a very interesting detail, which I'll talk about later. The ship includes, for instance, Chris Smalls, who is head of the Amazon Union in the United States, as well as the Canadian doctor Yiping Ji, who's been a very fierce advocate for Palestinians. And the reason why the ship is so important, it's not mainly about the humanitarian aid. Now, of course, that would be great if it did reach its destination. It would help many people, but with 2 million Palestinians starving, the more important role the ship is playing is putting Israel in an ultimatum. Because Israel can only do two things, both of which would backfire in terms of Israel's goal of continuing the genocide of Palestinians. The first thing it could do is it could do nothing. It could let the ship reach its destination, and ultimately what this would do is it set a precedent, because if the ship actually reached Gaza unharmed, then other people would join in who also care about the genocide. They would load up their ships with supplies and come over to help the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, Israel is a genocidal settler colony. It's not going to let this happen, so the more likely thing it's going to do is it's going to try to stop the ship, either through a drastic action or just onboarding it and arresting the people there. But I think this is also going to backfire because Israel is very much used to harming and arresting Palestinians without any consequence. But what they would be doing is they'd be actually going onto the ship and arresting Westerners, many of whom have at least some level of fame and attention in the media spotlight. And the reason why this matters is because, Western media is so racist that they really only focus on stories that often involves Westerners. When there's an earthquake in a Western country, that becomes front page news, and when there's an earthquake in a black or brown country, this ends up being at the bottom of your news feed. And while it's obviously terrible, it's not something I endorse, and while I also think that of course, after 20 months there should be more attention, there should have always been attention on the genocide going on in Gaza, I want to focus on the fact that these people are weaponizing their privilege in a good way. They're putting themselves in harm's way that should something happen, should something bad happen, that is going to make front page news, and that will actually lead to even some resistance within the Western establishment, such as from politicians, etc., etc. And you have to remember, for instance, Vietnam, that war came to an end because it was the death of American troops. That's what really brought about resistance within the West itself, not just the millions of Vietnamese who are being killed. And likewise in this case, the Westerners who are on this ship, they're bringing a lot of attention, putting Israel in an ultimatum.